Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Pam Montgomery. We're so excited. I know the founder of the Fairy Congress, Michael Pilarski, has known you for years, but we've never been able to have you because of the distance. So we're so excited to finally make this connection. And can you tell us a little bit about how did the plants start to call to you to work in this way?
Well, it actually started when I was a kid, and my grandparents on my mother's side of the family lived in the eastern hills of Kentucky, and we used to go there. And my sister and I would go in the summers, and it was just this amazing place, and it was kind of like going back about 100 years in time because it was it was really different. And they just, if you could say that term salt of the earth, that's the kind of people they were. They just lived off, they didn't know any other way to be than to be with the earth. And my grandmother was a real plant person. And she, in the South, you have your main meal at noontime, at the middle of the day. And so she would spend all of her mornings in the kitchen and cooking and all that. And then then there was the eating of it, and then there was the cleanup of it. And by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she'd come outside, and she had all these plants and, bushes and everything. And she'd be picking and pruning and da, 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 but she'd be talking the whole time. And I'd go up to her and say, Granny, who are you talking to? And she'd say, well, plants are just like people. They need friends too. And so she was very much this person who felt like you were in relationship with your plants. I mean, that was a given for her. And so I got this idea from my grandmother that that's the way it was supposed to be, that you were supposed to talk to your plants. And so I so then when I got older and I was an adult, I was just like, oh yeah, everybody does that. No, everybody does not do that, including herbalists. They kind of go, oh, you're one of those airy fairy. Speaking of fairies, you're one of those airy fairy types, as if it was a bad thing. Um, so anyway, I feel like I kind of got a head start because I assumed that that's what everybody did, and you talked to your plants and you got to know them in this kind of like homey kind of way. And so that was my foundation. And then what happened was, I would say, let me think, probably in, well, I was part of the whole Back to the Land movement. And that was in the early 70s. And so here we were, like trying to grow our own food and, heat our house with wood, da da da, all that stuff. Part of that was taking care of your health. And back in those days, there was maybe tour books on the shelf. There was Jethro Kloss, and there wasn't much out there like there is today. And so you had to like kind of do it on your own, and you had to kind of, so that's what we did. We just really were with the plants, and we're really kind of informed by them. And so again, that was kind of setting another stage for what came later, which was that as time went on, then I had this lovely garden. I was living on the Hudson River in the Hudson Valley, and part of New York. And I had a spiral garden that I had created. And things started to happen in that garden that I couldn't explain. I could, and I just was kind of like, there's something else going on here. What is it? And I realized that these plants are these magnanimous beings, these huge beings, and they're way more than their chemical constituents. And it totally fascinated me and intrigued me. And that's what I wanted to know about. And so I just dove in and read everything that about that kind of thing that I could get my hands on, all the Findhorn stuff and all that stuff way back then. And it's just from that time already having kind of some foundation in communicating or relating to plants, kind of one on one personally. And it was really the foundation. And then what came was that it's like the old Buddhist saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's the way it is with plants. When you're ready, they're like, here, and they kind of serve it up on a silver platter. And it just keeps growing and building and evolving, and it so you never get bored. And so that's what's happened in my life, and I feel blessed. And I mean, I'm also an herbalist, so I'm here's an herb that you'll might want to take for whatever. I do that too, but there's way more that these plants bring to us. So that's what's happened over the years for me.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. I love how it keeps growing. I mean, that makes sense because that's what plants do. That's what the world of nature does. It keeps
That's
growing,
right.
becoming more and more all the
That's
time.
right.
All right. And so what little slice of that are you going to share with us in your workshop?
Well, yes, one of the things that kind of came, um, it is, well, I call it plant initiations. Now, some people might refer to it as like plant dieting, which I don't like to use that word because it oftentimes connotates that it's a psychotropic plant. If you're going to diet something, and that's kind of traditionally, you do a plant diet. Like if you were going to refer to ayahuasca, you would call it a plant diet in that ingesting of ayahuasca in a ceremonial setting anyway. And so I call it plant initiation because that's actually, in my opinion, what it really is what's happening here is that, um, if you think about initiation and what that is, it's the elders of the tribe initiating young people into what it means to be within the community, within the tribe, within the whole, and to kind of taking up their place in that. And here in our society anyway, there's not a lot of elders left, and so there's not the whole idea of initiation is, I mean, some segments in Native American and maybe other segments, there's some initiation ceremonies going on or initiation processes going on. But for the general public, no, that's long gone. And so what's happening in the evolution of the plants is that they recognize that and they're stepping up to become the elders. So they're the ones that are now um, being the elders and guiding us in this way, and that they are initiating us into what it means to be truly human within the collective, to how to live sanely within all of our diversity within the collective. And so these initiations are, they're just common plants. They're just everyday common plants. They're, dandelion, St. John's wort, mugwort, just, walk outside your door and here's all these common plants that are incredibly healing, and they just bring us so much. So anyway, so what we do is um, gather, hopefully again in person someday. Last 2 years we haven't gathered in person, and we have one plant that we work with for 3 days, and we do all we make I call it an elixir. It's not technically an elixir, but a combination of different preparations of the plant, combine them together again in a particular kind of stirring way, and kind of ceremonially we prepare the herbs and then mix them all together, and then we ingest that over the period of the 3 days. And so we're actually taking in the plant. So it needs to be a plant that you can do that with. It needs to be edible. So we do that, and then we do all kinds of things with it. We do journeys with it. We sit with the plant. We embody the plant. We do a whole thing where we make masks, and we become the plant. We literally become the plant, and we have a council. So if we were doing dandelion, we'd have a council of dandelions, and we'd speak and wear our masks, and we would speak as if we're a dandelion, and we're talking to a whole bunch of other dandelions that have come to the council. And so it's quite powerful, the work that we do. And in 3 days time, man, you get to know a plant really, really well. because you're spending all your time working with it in various ways, and it's really profound. And what I've seen is that I have students that just continually come back and come back and come back for the initiations because they want to go really deep with these plants. They already have a relationship, but they just want to go deeper. So it's really amazing. And the things that come are like, wow. I mean, it's kind of shocking how
Mhm.
amazing it is. So the last 2 years, we've actually done it online, which is like, at first I was like, what? And it was dandelion was not this year, but last year. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to cancel dandelion. Oh darn. And I go out to dandelion and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna have to cancel. And dandelion was, I called dandelion the kick butt plant. And dandelion was like, what do you mean? I'm not on lockdown. And I went, oh, good point. so, so it was basically dad was like, you figure it out. And I was like, okay. so so we did it online, and to be honest, it was actually it was actually okay. And it was some parts of it that were actually really good. And I also gave access to a whole lot more people. So anyway, it was okay. It's not the same
Yeah.
as in person. I can't say that
Yeah.
it is, but it was okay. So that's what I'm going to share with people is about initiations and kind of like what we do and some of the experiences that have happened that are really awesome. And then also, we'll have a plant that we'll all work with together. I think that's the way we're going to do it is we'll have kind of the same as we would do with an initiation. We have one plant that we're going to work with. And so far, that plant hasn't revealed itself to me, but I'm going to assume by January it will.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, okay, who wants to do this now for the Fairy Congress? And a
Right.
plant will say, woohoo, me. And so that's the one that we'll do a journey with that plant in kind of the same, vein that we would in
Yeah.
an initiation. So that's
Oh,
what we're going to
fun.
be up to.
All right. Well, I'm not going to give a plug for dandelion, but I do love my roasted dandelion root tea. That's like daily, and that just feels so nourishing. And
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
I,
it's a good one. It's a good
yeah,
one for sure. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's like usually the plants that show up are ones that you really need to be working with at in whatever time you're
right,
in,
right.
which, we'll see what that could
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Hmm. Could
I
be
think isn't
could be interesting.
mugwort good for dreaming?
Oh yeah.
Could be a good one too. All right.
Yeah. Oh
Well, I'm
yeah.
sure whatever comes will be,
Mugwort's a
yeah,
dreamer. Yeah.
will be
Well, the
perfect.
Artemisias in general are
Uh,
good right now.
mhm,
I just, real quick little thing. I just read a article which was about Sweet Annie, which is Artemisia annua. It's the annual Artemisia, and they're doing studies and with it, and so far it's they haven't done a clinical trial yet, but so far it's in the lab, so it's in vitro. Um, where they're finding that it's really good for this particular virus we find
hmm,
ourselves
mhm,
encountering.
mhm,
And interestingly enough, it's coming out of the University of Kentucky,
mhm,
and um, they're because the way Sweet Annie grows and is harvested and all that, the same equipment that you use for growing tobacco is the
mhm.
same you would use for growing Sweet Annie in this way. And Kentucky is full of tobacco farmers. And so the
Mhm.
tobacco farmers are actually switching over to growing Sweet Annie instead of tobacco. And I was
Wow,
like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
that is,
So I'm very hopeful about Sweet Annie right now.
yeah,
And so we'll see.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
so that's kind of exciting.
yeah. There are exciting things happening in the world today. And that's
Yes,
one thing, I
there
don't know,
are.
I feel like at the Fairy Congress, it's sometimes it seems frivolous, but I do feel like we work on such a deep level that we help feed these things that then reveal themselves. Um, so one of my projects has been sort of getting the world away from plastic and away from oil. And it's like, you could try to do that politically and it would be really hard. But if you do that energetically, I have had some really interesting experiences and, something happens. It's like, well, whatever that means. But then 2 days later, I'll see in the news this article about, oh, we're moving away from oil somehow. And it's like, oh, I think it does work.
It does
So
feel good. It
it's
does.
very
It
exciting.
does. It does. And it's amazing what these plants are
Yeah.
bringing us to us now and
Yes.
revealing to us,
Yeah.
and also just like how to be adaptable. And
Mm,
this time period we're in, it's so much about adaptation, and the
yeah.
plants are, they're the masters and the mistresses of adaptation. They've been doing it for millions of years.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like, okay, we just need to pay attention to them in that way, in that bigger, broader way, and how they can inform us. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
quite exciting. So thank you so much for asking me to the Congress this year, and letting me talk about plants in this way, because
Yeah. Oh, we're so excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's
me too. It'll be good.
great. So for everybody listening, go to fairycongress.com and get your tickets. It's on, I also want to say all the workshops are live. I know, I get so many spiritual events happening and so many of them are recorded, which is fine, but I love having the live workshops. So just to give that little plug too.
Yeah.
So we hope to see you in January.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
hope to
so
see you
much.
there.
All right.
Okay. Bye for now.